Okay, so I'm here with Cole Weaver, the director.
Col Spector.
Col
Col Weaver, the lead in the film.
Yes,
That's fine.
that is correct. Just making sure everyone's on point this morning. Oh my gosh, Cole. Thanks, man. I appreciate you stopping by. So you've got your film coming really soon, right? The 12th of April.
Oh, April, that's right, yeah.
I'm Not in Love. So why I'm not in love? Like, you know, I think it's a big statement right there, Cole.
I like the idea that in romantic comedies, often it's about finding that special one person. I think a lot of movies sell that idea, and I like the idea of what if you don't meet that one special person? What if you're with someone and it's kind of okay, it's not amazing? Should you still press the button and get married and, you know, spend a life together? And it's something that when I was telling people about the story, a lot of people going, oh my God, that's the story of my life. Yes, I can relate to that. So it has a theme of settling, compromise, which I think resonates with lots of people.
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, there was definitely flashbacks in the film to situations, you know, because I think you meet people at different stages of their life, right? And some people want kids at a real early stage, and some want to wait, and so, you know what I mean? So it's this whole big thing. And I remember one time I split up with this girl, and she was just like, but I'm ready to have kids. And if we don't, you know, make this work, I'm going to have to go meet someone. That's going to be at least another year. And then there's another year of getting to know them before I can have a kid. So I might as well just do it with you. And I'm just like, that's a glowing recommendation. Sign me up. I didn't look at it like that. My bad. Like, how much of this film was like past experiences or experiences of people you know?
Well, a lot of it started from conversations that Radha and I, Radha Chakraborty is my co-writer, and I had with women. So it's kind of collecting a little bit of information from real women's stories. And then there's also an element of stealing conversations from married men that I know as well. So it's very much a little bit of borrowing from here, a little bit of borrowing from there. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of truth in the film because I've heard a lot of it.
I do think that it does kind of make you think about relationships, right? And why people are together. And I think one of the big telling points in the film is, you know, whenever they're speaking about Marta, they're like, why do you like Marta? Like, well, she's very loyal. Yeah, she's very loyal and she's kind. And I'm just like, if that's the best you can come up with, when someone's like, so tell me about your partner, that's all you can come with, it kind of, you know, doesn't bode well for situations.
That's what he's seeing at that moment in time, yeah. He does sort of shift a little bit, his perception of her as the film goes on. But that moment in time, that's the conversation he's having with his friends, because he's not seeing the whole picture.
Yeah, and he's not really getting the best of advice, I would say.
He's not always getting the best of advice. And there's a point, I think he gets very extreme advice. So there's a point in the film where it's actually up to him to make a choice of what to do.
Yeah, I think there's always that thing where if you ask other people, they don't know your experiences, so they can't really give you anything. They can, if you're asking a broad question on, like, how long did you wait before you proposed? They can give you that answer, but they can't really give you the answer on, you know, do you think she'll say yes? Or like, do you think she loves me? Like, they don't really know any of that stuff. So it's like, when we ask people for advice, I think we need to kind of caveat it with what do we actually want from this conversation? You know what I mean? Because yeah, like you're asking all those people, you'd be like, you know, it needs to be like, well, she's a 6. You know, be like, oh my god, being told, oh yeah, your girl's a 6, but you know, you're like a 5, 6 yourself, so it's fine. Yeah.
Again, I'd just say they're quite real conversations that I have heard. All of that, and you know, everyone who's giving their opinions, they've all got a point. You know, all of them, you know, they're speaking some sort of truth, but ultimately, the character Rob has to decide what's right for him, as you say.
Yeah. So when you were putting this together, what was like, was the ending always the ending, or did
Yeah,
that kind of shift?
yeah. I think the ending was always that ending. I mean, yeah, and then you kind of go backwards because you kind of need a diametric opposition between the ending of the film and then the end of the second act. So that kind of, yeah, I don't want to give too much away about
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
film,
yeah.
but it was always there. There are just different kind of shades of how far it could go. But yeah, that kind of ending was
I
it. So I
mean,
don't
it
want to
was
give up.
definitely a bold move having the ninjas come in like that. I wasn't expecting it.
Radha and I, she argued against the ninjas, but I said we need to bring the ninjas in. And I think I'm right.
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely worked. Yeah.
And then the spaceship, that was her suggestion.
At one point, I was thinking at first, have we jumped the shark here? But then, you know, once you kind of get down with it, I'm like, no, actually, yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, the big shark is important. It does make sense.
So, did you have, you know, people in mind when you were writing these characters, or did that, you know, when you saw people, you're like, oh, you'd be perfect for this role?
To begin with, it was really tricky because working on it a long time ago. Originally, I was kind of thinking about someone like Chris O'Dowd in the lead role. And then as time went on, I thought I was going to get the money and it didn't happen. It took a long time to get going. I was thinking of Al, Radha and I, when we were writing it, were thinking of
Mm.
Al because it was such a long process originally starting on it to finishing it. And then the last couple of years, we were just thinking about Al in the role, and that really helped tailor the script. Because there's not many people who could play that part. I mean, I can't think of anyone else apart from Al to play that part. So as it went on, it got more and more tailored to him. And it was so much easier writing it, thinking about Al. I'd made a movie with him and I'd made a short film with him. So I kind of knew, and I was also a friend. So I kind of knew how, well, I had a sense of how it was going to play.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he also really liked the idea of playing it as well, which was nice. It seemed like a very good fit. But boy, oh boy, is that a hard part to cast, to lead in.
And then it's, you know, finding the rest of the cast. Like, did you have them hang out to kind of form bonds and relationships, or was it just on set and do your thing?
We did the guys. There's a kind of 3 or 4 male friends. I kind of got most of those together a bit before because I wanted to try out that chemistry. It was really important getting all those guys to be correct. Um, Although one actor pulled out just before because there was a family disaster that happened, so I had to quickly recast one of them. But it all seemed to work out on the day. But I was a bit nervous having not brought everyone together, but it was fine. And there was enough time on set as we can setting up the camera for people to start to get to know each other.
So did you send them to an actual, you know, exercise class?
Yeah, they had about, there's Krav Maga, a couple of scenes of Krav Maga class, and there was about 1.5 hours where they got trained up by the Krav Maga instructor. I was a bit nervous about that. I was a bit nervous because it's a hard martial art, but they did great. They really did. I was really worried that 1.5 hours wouldn't be enough, but the guy who's the instructor who's in the film, he said it was going to be fine and that they did a good job.
Okay, like with things like that, I mean, you always wonder, right? But so why Krav Maga? Like there's, you look at some scenes sometimes and you think, oh, could that have been football? Could they have been in the park playing chess? Could they, like, was that intrinsic to the scene? Or did you just, circumstances fit and it just all worked out that way?
Um, Originally, I like the idea of it being one person describes Krav Maga as the most fuck off martial art there is. And I like the idea of these guys who are not very good doing the most brutal martial art that there is. And there's also questions of masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? And it was just kind of funny. The idea it was the most terrifying, the most awful. And again, that gives you kind of comedy potential where it's really, really tough. And then these guys kind of getting nervous in the background. So that was the basic idea. And I just thought it'd be funny to have a really, really horrible martial art where anything goes, or it seems that anything goes in it. And I saw some videos online, and I thought, yeah, this is kind of work. Because football wouldn't be the same. It's them out of their comfort zone, and it's meant to look a little ludicrous.
Yeah, no, I see. Yeah, I mean football, yes, because it's like so many people, and it's, yeah, having four people have a conversation during a football game, it would be a bit odd visually, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted something that just sort of sounded a bit funny. The idea of them doing this martial art together. That was all. Because a lot of time I'm kind of taking a piss out of the characters. I'm kind of with them emotionally, but also taking the piss. So it's that fine line between being with them, but also smiling at them.
Yeah, because we touch on a lot of different things when it comes to relationships. Like I think it's fear of rejection, intimacy issues. So there's all these different things in the film, and trying to balance that, right? So trying to have it so it's just not there for, a joke, right? So it works within the context of the film, but you're still able to have fun around it. How was it to walk that line? Were there scenes that you were, I need to change that, or that's just not working at all? Let's get rid of it.
I think it all starts in the writing, and then so much more of the writing is in the casting. So if it's written right and it's cast right, you can tell in the casting, yeah, if you're smiling. So yes, you have to have emotional connection, but also I'm kind of smiling at the same time. So the casting is so crucial. It's so crucial to the, you're walking that fine line, but it is a fine line. Casting the wrong person, and it just, the joke falls flat and the emotion falls flat.
Mm.
And in terms of casting, it's got to feel like characters who are that person. I don't like it when it feels acted. It's just got to be like a nice snug fit, the casting with the role, and then hopefully things are working out right. But it's delicate comedy because it will so easily fail. But I don't try and over egg the comedy. Hopefully the situation and the casting is right and it takes care of itself if it's played straight. No one ever is doing this thing to try and be funny. It's always, hopefully, played straight.
Yeah, and I know it's that thing with comedy, right? That everyone finds things different in their own way. So, you might give it to some people, they're not gonna chill with it, but other people are gonna love it. So it's just, it must make it a little bit more difficult to kind of screen test that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not, I mean, I don't think it's really a romantic comedy. It's structurally a romantic comedy. I see it as more of a relationship comedy, or it's a kind of character study. That's not really a type of film, but it's more a dramedy. Yeah, people have got to be with, it's got a bit of a kind of European sensibility. It's not like a big American rom-com. It's much drier and much wryer. It's got a foot in Jim Jarmusch or Aki Kaurismäki. It's a very, very dry comedy. And yeah, you got to have a taste for that kind of dryness, I think.
Yeah, yes, it's not Bridget Jones. right?
It's not.
I mean, it's dealing with the different spectrum of a relationship rather than, you know, with the cute meat, as it were, right? It's the flip side of that, you know. So that, I think that's where it gets interesting, because yeah, it's not always that Disney moment, right? How many times have you walked into the room and your eyes meet, and then birds are flying and deer are bringing you your jacket, and then you run off into the sunset? You know, I mean, that doesn't happen for 99% of the world. So yeah, it is. I think you need to see that different type of story, right?
I think so, yeah. And it's quite nice doing something in the context of being different to more mainstream. So making a virtue of it being more of a kind of indie take. Hopefully it's just a more realistic take. So it's not a worse film. Hopefully it's as good, if not better, because it's more realistic.
Yeah, because when you're like looking at things like you know, fertility and, you know, relationship counseling and stuff like that, do you like, is there the thought of, oh, this might need a bit more time in the film rather than just a couple of moments, like, you know, trying to balance it so it it works within the context of like these relationships, you know? Do you kind of, how do you play that?
Are you talking about setting something up and spending lots of time exploring an idea? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, it's, you know, if someone came to you, right, and was just like, you know, your friends like, oh man, having problems with my girl, and you know, I think we're gonna have to go see a counselor or something, and be like, yeah, no, cool. So I watched this football game, and you're like, you, in real life, you're gonna sit with that a bit longer, right? But you've got a film, so you've got a set amount of time to, you know, traverse through these situations. So how much, if you're including these certain things, is there a thought of, oh, we kind of need to sit with this for this amount of time?
I think so. You're thinking about that when you're writing it, and you're thinking about it when you're shooting it, and you're thinking about it when you're editing it. But I think also people have seen so many rom-coms, and the audience are always ahead of it. And Rada and I don't like to over-egg something, over-explain. The way it's filmed is it's often a little bit of a distance, just observing it, almost a little bit like an alien observing the behavior. So there's a sense of, in theory, we're just kind of eavesdropping on this person's life. And in life, sometimes you don't get the full story, but you have enough that you can work out what's happening. I think, yeah, we always hated the idea of over explaining.
Mm.
So it's just got to meant to have its own rhythm, and hopefully it works in terms of enough information is given for people to follow it. That's what we intended.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And co-writing, how does that work for you? Because I've heard so many people talk all the different ways in which they collaborate. How do you, yeah, how do you make it work?
Um, I think one thing which is just crucial for me, if I'm making a film about relationships between men and women, it's really important to have a woman, because I think often, not always, but often, I can tell if it's a guy having written something, because the women aren't quite authentic. So it's already a win-win if you found a great writer to work with who's a woman, if you're writing this stuff. But practically, I would do a draft, and I showed it to Rada. She'd give feedback. She'd make suggestions. She might say stuff, and I'd be writing it down as she's saying it. And then I'll go away and do another draft, and then show it to her, read it to her. She'll give feedback. I'll make notes. So it's that kind of to and fro version, my version, her version. And she works very well like that, responding to something that she's got. She'll kind of tear up a lot of it and then make new suggestions. So that's kind of how it works. Kind of, it's a very slow process.
Okay. Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes it's quite good to have a lot of time because it just takes time just to think about solving problems because there's quite a few problems to try and solve along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely trying to get those voices because I think you always want to make sure that everyone's got a different voice rather than everyone just sounds the same. Because that's never a good thing when you watch a film or TV show, whatever, and it's just like, wait, they're all the same character. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, there are two married guys who seem as if they're fairly happily married, and all the time was really wanted to make them very, very different because early versions they were a bit too similar. So
Mm,
again, I kind of started thinking about who they were, who the people I know who were closest, and then that really helped make them different because yeah, early on they seemed too similar.
yeah. So, how long did this all take to you know put together and?
It took a good very early version, it took a good 10 years, just from 11 years from early kind of versions to the final version. So shooting it was 17 days, editing it was about a year, sound another few months. But the writing was a very, very slow thing.
Mm,
I was doing other things in between, but
yes.
this was a tricky little, very slow film to write.
Yeah, when something, you're sitting on something for so long, right? Do you get to a point where, it's completely different to the animal you started with? Because you've changed
Uh,
so much within that period of time.
I just think he got better and better and more intelligent. I mean, I thought he was going to get commissioned really quickly after I wrote it. Someone said they were going to greenlight the film, and then we didn't get the money for it, and I was really, really upset. But there was a writer director who said, "I think this is going to be the best thing because I think the script can get better." And I thought, "No, I don't think so." But the script's got so much better. So it's great when you know each draft is just getting better and better. So it's just
Mm,
painful, but something you've got to do sometimes. Some things are just really, really hard to crack and get to the point where they're ready to make.
yeah, but have you seen a difference in like the funding models since the beginning of this and now?
Yeah, I think it's harder to get funding over the time because it's harder to make money back from films which aren't big budget films. The the smaller budget films are hard. And in terms of state funding, it seems to be the kind of very specific criteria looking for. So I think it has got harder. Yeah, I think this idea of going to private investors and getting to invest money in films is proving harder because it's harder to make good money back on your investment.
Hmm. I know from talking to some people, it's like with leaving Europe and everything like that, that stopped a lot of the funding streams that were
Yeah,
in
yeah,
place.
definitely,
So
definitely.
how does that affect the motivation for creating, going forward?
I wonder if it makes you think about making it as simple as possible. But I don't know if the motivation changes because there's always that, there's a belief that you'll make it somehow. But I think you've always got to be thinking about how low could I make this film if I had to, I guess. You got to have a plan B as
Yeah.
well as a plan A, because you may not get the money for your plan A. So yeah, I think the great thing about digital technology is you can make films, quite cheaply. So you're having a plan B and a plan C is probably a good thing.
uh, but has it kind of opened up any new kind of avenues for you, right? So you just over this time and with the advancement in technology, you've now seen new ways in which you can get the film out to people and you can communicate about the film.
But that's the weird thing, because my previous two movies were distributed in the normal way in the cinema, and then they were sold to BBC, BBC One, BBC Two, and then UD deals in other countries. And this business about not releasing in the cinema is very strange. It's
Mm.
different, but in a way, hopefully, it might be better because more people can see the film watching it at home. So I just love the idea of premiere in the cinema. I love all that, and it's just a different thing because it's a much more quiet release. And then online festivals is not the same as a real film festival. So I'm just trying to get my head around it, but also hoping that it can be a positive thing because more people can see a film when they watch it on Apple TV or Sky Store or whatever. So it's going to see what it's like in just over a week's time when it comes out.
Yeah, it is that thing, isn't it? There's, with a big premiere, you've got the press, the red carpet, there's this whole razzmatazz. But when it's like, okay, so it's released on this day on Amazon Prime, it's not quite the kind of thing, right? But I mean, there's still that anticipation for things, right?
Yeah,
But you have to find new ways to create the fanfare, as it were.
I guess. Yeah, I don't quite know what that is, but in theory, that there's that, isn't there? Yeah, creating some sort of fanfare somehow.
Have you ever tried Thunderclap or things like that?
What is it? What's Thunderclap?
Right. So basically, it's kind of like, well, no, it's not kind of like Kickstarter, but in essence, though, you do this thing, and so you set up a campaign, right? So you might have a message, right? So it'd be like, you might have, your film, and say something like, looking at relationships from a different angle, right? So, and you say you want to get 100 people engaged with this campaign, and once you get that 100 people signed up, that's your bare minimum. More can, but on then the set day, so the 12th of April, like over all the selected social medias that you decide, this will go out. So it will appear on everyone's feeds. So the more people you get to sign up, the more coverage it gets, right? And so this big message suddenly, pow, at 12 o'clock on the 12th, boom, you get this big kind of cascade of information.
Oh,
So there's kind of things like that. But I only found I found out about that through I was doing this contract somewhere, and I utilized it to launch this new initiative day. But I'd not heard of it before that. But yeah, there's different kind of things like that can help you create that buzz,
oh,
as it were.
okay, thank you.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. Lockdown is shutting, it is coming to a close supposedly, but are these models, are they going to change, right? The way people consume this sort of information, it
Yeah,
seems that the windows between release and the theater are definitely shrinking,
yeah, yeah.
right? But what do you think about that, actually?
Um, I don't suppose it's such a problem. There's a shorter period of time between cinema release and release digitally. But I do still miss the idea of a launch in the cinema, going to see a film in the cinema, because this film, I think, works so well in the cinema because there's a kind of slowness to it in certain places, and that works so well in the cinema. And I don't really like the idea of someone watching on a small screen my film because it's played from a big screen. But then you can't push against progress. I mean, I do love watching films at home because I've got nice TV, and I don't have people behind me eating popcorn and kicking my seat. So, in theory, for kind of indie movies, this digital release is an amazing thing because you can see films which might be in just small cinemas. You can see them anywhere in the world. So I guess you weigh things up. Maybe digital release system is better because you can target people who are into those sort of films, and that can be anyone around the world can see them, and not immersive, going into car, driving to town and seeing that film for that period of time.
But
So
do you
maybe,
think that having a digital release, say on the same day as a theatrical release, that's going to stop people going to the cinema?
I would have thought so. Yeah, I would have thought so. What do you
Interesting.
think?
I don't think it will.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's right. So it's like going to a gig, right? You can buy a CD, which is great, but going to see your favorite artist live, there's a different experience to that, right? And so going to see something in the cinema, there's that situation of when a certain thing happens and everyone has that same reaction. Like at the end of Infinity War, when you saw you saw Captain Marvel's side and everyone disappearing, everyone's like like literally everyone in the cinema is like that same reaction, and you're in that moment, right? And everyone's walking out excited for the next one, or they're talking about, oh, what about that bit in the film when that happened? Or even if it's not like it's a lower action film, right? But you're talking about, oh man, I've been in that scenario. Whew. I feel for Marder, right? Don't you? Yeah, no, it's tough, right? So, but there's that camaraderie. You're talking. You're like, you don't get that at home.
Yeah.
So where I think it opens things up, right? There's a lot of my friends, they've had kids, so going to the cinema is tough. So they can now get to see the film, but me, I'm still going to the cinema, right? So I think it opens up, the opportunity for more people to technically see stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to stop people from going.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it definitely makes cinemas up their game, because you think about, right, the money you're paying now to go to the cinema, and the service at a lot of them, it's not the best. You know what I mean? It's just like the seats aren't comfortable. They don't screen check. So there's noise and rubbish happening. And it's like, it's expensive. So I think it will force cinemas to offer a better service.
Yeah.
So
I think the Everyman is starting to offer that better service.
yeah.
They're really expensive, but at least they are doing that. They're going extra, aren't they?
Yeah, I think you've got places like the Everyman, the Curzons, the Picture House. The seats at the Picture House Central are so nice. You get, and it's like, I love the little screens at the BFI. So you've got places like that that are great. You can see films and it's really enjoyable. But then you go to some of these other places and it's not so much. So I think it kind of will shake things up, make people go, okay, yeah, we better up our offer.
Yeah,
And then you'll see people go.
I remember seeing Joker at my local Odeon on the day it came out, and just loads of people just on their phones. And it's like no one's stopping happening, and so it's right over to one side. It wasn't the most enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because I used to work at a cinema, right? And there was there was a policy of, you give people free warnings. I was like, no, if people mess up, I'm kicking them out, because you know how to act in public, right? It's not, oh, I didn't know I shouldn't have my phone, my bright screen on in this dark room. Oh, I didn't know I shouldn't be talking while people are trying to enjoy this thing on the screen. So I'm just like, listen, you mess up, you're out. And I kick people out.
Did you do that?
Yeah. But there was a drastic drop of the incidents at the cinema once I changed the policy. right? But then people know, okay, if I want to go watch a film here, I can't fuck around, right? There's why are you letting people fuck around? And then you just, I implemented screen checks, right? So you the staff, and you can do it so you're not interfering, but you just monitor the screen every, I don't know, it depends on what kind of film it is and how big the screen is, but you can do it like every 15, 20 minutes. You just pop your head in, make sure everything's cool. So if something isn't, you're in a spot where people, they can see you and know to go to you, but you're not interfering with the experience.
I go to that cinema, the cinema that you were at. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, like it just stops the problem. And I think if you do that, you're not having the same crazy issues, And that's the thing, because I know at my local Odeon, sometimes I've been and there's just talking and it's crazy. And afterwards you you say, it's people talking all the way through the film. And they're like, oh, you should have come and told me. I'm like, firstly, it's dark, right? So really, I'm going to try and make my way out of the screen to come tell you. Secondly, you're meant to be doing that. You're meant to be ensuring that. It's this weird attitude that they have. And I think with these changes, it will force them to change that attitude.
Up their game,
Yeah. But it's a weird one. I think it's interesting times ahead for sure. But what's the, when your film will be dropping on the 12th, right? So what happens for you as, director, writer, you've created this thing, it drops on the 12th. So what then happens for you?
Just trying to sort out distribution for the rest of the world, just get a sales agent in and just push it out. That's it. And I'm just hoping that the distributor will also do TV sales to different terrestrial or different television stations in UK and Ireland, and then try and get a Netflix deal and see what the life is after that.
Oh gosh, yes. Like, I completely forgot, because that was the whole thing, wasn't it? It hit the cinema. Then like, a year later it'd be DVD, and then was it a year later it hits TV? Something like that, right? So but I think, now with streaming platforms, you forget about the TV deal kind of side of things, but there's so much to think about. It must be crazy just having to be like, okay, right, we got a release date, but all right, now we got to think about this next thing. Oh man! And do you have a another project? Like, do you know what?
I'm writing a comedy which is set in the past in London at the moment. So that's taking up a lot of time, just trying to get my head around that, trying to solve a few little problems on it, but it's getting there.
Okay. And when we say past, are we talking Dickens?
18th century London.
Okay.
I don't want to say much more about it, just working on it. But it's going well.
Interesting, man. Well, I hope all that goes well.
Thank you.
And I hope this is a big success for you, man.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, no worries at all. Thank you for your time. And I like the fact that you took this different look at the whole relationship scenario. So nice going with the film, man.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, no worries, man.
Right.
Thank you. So people, go check it out, right? I'm Not in Love is out on the 12th of April.
Lost you. I just lost you. I'm Not in Love, yes.
Yes. Cool. All right, man. Thanks a lot, Carl.
Just thank you very much. Cheers then.